'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a penguin?
Canada be damned. I'm going to the Klondike.
The Klondike is Canada.
Giorgio, you be doing just fine, brother.
It's Christmas Eve, and although I have yet to tackle any Christmas movies this month, I wanted to cover at least one movie in particular that I feel deserves a spotlight. A movie that, no doubt, gets neglected from its wide umbrella of Christmas movies, but also a film which seems to be neglected in general, especially in the shadow of its prequel. This movie is Batman Returns, and it's sadly written off by many, and unless you're a Batman comics purist, I can't fathom why.
You're not just saving a life. You're saving your...
Shut up. You're going to jail.
Don't be naive. The law doesn't apply to people like him or us.
Wrong on both counts.
Really? You're turning yourself in for that, Batman?
Okay, you got a point.
Batman Returns continues the Caped Crusaders story from the 80s, with several new characters and a Christmas holiday flair. In this rendition, we begin with a backstory, not of Bruce Wayne or Batman, but of the film's primary villain, Penguin. Don't worry, we'll come back to Batman. This is Batman Returns, after all. Abandoned in the sewers of Gotham City, the Penguin is raised by penguins, and eventually runs a literal underground gang of circus folk known as the Red Triangle Gang. 33 years later, we catch up with Batman? No. Like I said before, we'll get there. We catch up with Gotham tycoon Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken, as well as his secretary,
Executive assistant.
Oh, sorry.
Selena Kyle, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, who later becomes Catwoman. Although separate, the two of them are caught up in an attack on Gotham, orchestrated by a now adult Penguin, played by Danny DeVito. It is at this point we catch up with Batman, reprised by Michael Keaton, who's doing what Batman does best, taking out the trash. From there, Penguin blackmails Schreck, Selena becomes Catwoman, Schreck uses and manipulates everybody, and Bruce Wayne has to deal with all of them in some capacity, whether as himself, Batman, or both. As I stated before, Batman Returns is a Christmas movie, or at least it takes place around the holiday, which begs the question, is Batman Returns a Christmas movie? Everywhere you look, there's details to remind you of the occasion. We never see Christmas Day in Gotham, and with a stretch of topics like family and the role in which they play in our lives, one could, perhaps, make the case for some type of Christmas theme. Yet I cannot help but wonder if you have to stretch the themes and rely on the time and production design, is that enough to designate it a Christmas movie? By this measure, Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. And to be frank, I'm of the opinion Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. Feel free to come at me in the comments. So then, why isn't Batman Returns ever mentioned when discussing Christmas movies? I've never seen it on TV around the holiday, and even though it taps into Christmas mainly on an atmospheric level, Batman Returns is strangely missing from our usual pool of Christmas movies. And yet it feels as though it goes the extra mile in comparison to Die Hard. I suspect this mostly has to do with how Batman Returns is viewed in general. It's quite the departure from its prequel, especially with its aesthetics. And with a season change, as well as not one but two of its stock villains reimagined here, it may be too much for some people, especially if you're an avid reader of the comics. However, for me, it is these changes and more which actually put Batman Returns well above its predecessor. Now, I'm well aware how beloved the '89 Batman is, and having said what I've said about Die Hard, I'd appreciate you hearing me out, because you've been gracious enough to stick with me thus far. I appreciate that. Just to be clear, Batman '89 is not a bad film at all, and Batman Returns does have its flaws. For me, personally, it's the heavy-handedness of Penguin's sexual aggression that's overutilized, and its biggest liability.
Here. Wear a button. Let me just get it on there. It's not about power. It's about reaching out to people, touching people, groping people. Naked, sexual charisma. Oh, just the pussy I've been looking for.
Ben, think of you.
Oswald Cobblepot filling the void. I'd like to fill her void. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll admit, it does miss great opportunities in having more Batman in a Batman film, or even having a relationship with Commissioner Gordon.
Thanks for saving the day, Batman. I'm afraid the Circus Gang is back.
We'll see.
They almost made off with our mover and shaker, Max Shrek, but
However, the time it takes away from those, it divides between our three villains. Their subplots and relationships between one another is a big part of what drives the overall narrative. Selena Kyle's arc in particular is the one which I've always felt was the most compelling. It's blatantly put out there that she's in a man's world, yet she rises above them once she's transformed into Catwoman.
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
This badass bitch isn't infallible. She's batshit crazy, and with the exception of going after Batman, her motivations are crystal clear. Both in the way she was written and performed, Selena Kyle feels like a female icon, without pandering to be one. After Vicky Vale from the first Batman, Selena Kyle feels miles away from how much agency our sole female character has. Okay, yes, there's also the Ice Princess.
Tree lights up, and then I push the button. Oh, no, wait. I press the button.
Let's get off this train of thought, comparing these films, and focus on why we're here, Batman Returns. There's a lot going on here, and that may be why some people don't like it. However, this saturation is what works for me. Batman's screen time in Batman Returns may be the shortest to date in any Batman film, yet many of those moments brilliantly showcase Batman's detective work as opposed to his muscles. And in turn, they showcase Keaton's excellence in delivering lines instead of his devotion to fight choreography.
Are you concerned about that strange, heroic penguin person?
I think he knows who his parents are. There's something else.
Must you be the only lonely man-beast in town?
Police have closed down Thread Triangle's fairgrounds. However, at least one freak show performer vanished before he could be questioned.
I suppose you feel better now, sir.
No. Actually, I feel worse.
Other such details, like the film's music box-like score, the monochromatic palette, and stock sound effects,
Right now, my troops are fanning out across town for your children. Yes!
may be more of an extension of the film's director than the source material. But to the uninitiated, Batman Returns feels like a worthy addition to the Batman franchise. Whether or not it's a Christmas film is something for you to decide. And regardless of where you land on that, it's perfectly fine. I simply hope when Christmas comes around, we keep Batman Returns in the mix. For now, and for many Christmases to come.
Well, come what may. Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne.
Merry Christmas, Albert.